Hello, friends. It is I, host Eric, and host Rachel, and together we are talking with famous people, and we are talking about a very famous person today. Somebody you've probably heard of from film, TV, stage, diving, skiing, everything. Eric Thor, right there. Very famous fellow. And he's got a video up today called What How to Make an INFJ Feel Happy. And so I was curious when I saw the thumb, and I was curious to watch it with Rachel and then ask her what she thought about it. So let's watch a little bit of it, and then I will also bring up. We've already watched this and I floated, so I know exactly everything. I have everything he says written down. So here we go.
How to make the INFJ feel great, how to make the INFJ feel fantastic. So what I found is every personality type has their own unique flow code. Now that means you can find out how to make other people feel better. And so what you want to do for the INFJ is quite simple. You want to give them space to be themselves. When you give people space to be themselves, they tend to respond by feeling more energized and feeling more motivated. Now, for the INFJ in particular, often a good way to make the INFJ feel good is to ask them why something is the way it is. INFJs are people that lead with introverted intuition, and because of that, they tend to enjoy thinking about why the world is the way it is. INFJs are predominantly existential and philosophical types, so they can talk and talk and talk about different theories about the universe and about philosophy and life and why we are here. Besides that, one way INFJs feel good is by helping other people. INFJs are one of the types that intrinsically respond well to being able to support and help others. So,
Okay. So the first thing he says here, the first two things he says is basically, if you ask an INFJ why something is, you're helping them to feel better because you're providing them a way to be useful with their knowledge. Thoughts?
I think that's interesting. I think, depending on the person that's asking why something is, sometimes, I know for myself, sometimes if someone asks me why something is, I feel like I'm put on the spot and I have to explain myself. And I don't necessarily like explaining myself because the more I explain, the more like confusing it gets. I'm wondering if that's like because ignoring any like
I find it. I think he would have been better served to say, ask an INFJ how something is.
yes.
Like, can you please explain the way things are right now in terms of describing them, or and what conclusions you might have? Ask why is a TI question, and that's gonna put pressure on the holistic nature of NI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I have more NI ideas, they don't really TI down. It's usually, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I think I think I get what he's saying there. I'm not really sure it's exactly right from my perspective because FE is an operational value, not an absolute value, and I'm not really sure INFJs are looking for an opportunity to show how smart they are in the way that ENTPs are, or that it makes them feel good, especially. Although maybe I'm wrong about that.
I don't. I always feel so awkward when I have to like explain myself, or it is true though that if you ask an INFJ about more about a subject that they like, then they can go on and on forever about it for sure. But I think if you're just asking, um, like, why?
Okay, like let's say this. Let's say I would ask you which is the best of the MCU movies that you've seen and why. If I were to
Oh,
ask you something like that, which is an aesthetics question, I think that
that
would be something you'd like to
yes,
answer.
yes, that is something that I could answer and would like to answer for sure. Yeah.
All right, let's go back to Thor, see what else he has to say. Because, every minute spent on ERIK THOR's Yearning boat is an absolute delight.
Often INFJs need to feel like they are of use to you, that they are able to help you. INFJs feel good when they're able to establish a connection between you two, or between themselves and the group. So the INFJ's goal is to connect and unite people towards one vision or one idea. Now, INFJs can struggle with certain things, and so if an INFJ is feeling anxious or unsettled or overwhelmed, there are a set of things you can do to make the INFJ feel more calm and more centered.
Okay, so I want to address this thing he says here. I want Rachel to address it first, which is wanting to make it such that multiple people connect over one idea or path. So obviously that's what he's trying to do here with his channel. And what do you think about that?
What do I think about that? Connect over an idea or path. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would.
But the thing, I would too, that's going to make an INFJ happy when they feel as though they're connecting with people over a singular correct vision, right?
Yes.
But is it really a way to? Is it really title appropriate the way I can make you happy? I don't think so.
No.
Make you feel happy? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's not.
Yeah,
but I
no.
get that, his title is for being a title, not for really being a thesis, so it's fine. But yeah, I think that may be a decent observation that when that occurs, INFJs probably feel gratified. I think this experience of connecting with this community over our correct interpretation of cognitive functions has been gratifying for you, probably.
Yeah, it really has. I've learned a lot about myself.
The thing is, I like ERIK THOR, and I've encouraged him to do exactly that, but to choose to to be correct as well. But he finds that condescending and thinks I'm disrespectful. Which is, it is disrespectful if you look at it like that, but it's only disrespectful. I mean, you're the only one I'm really giving respect to, because I actually try to talk to you and convince you to join me. I don't give anybody else that respect.
That's true.
One is to reduce negative sensory stimuli. INFJs are highly sensitive, but not all INFJs recognize the influence of bad lighting, overwhelming sounds, and noises on their energy and their mood. So an INFJ that is stressed or overwhelmed or put in intense situations will quickly become drained. So if you're able to help the INFJ manage incoming sensations, and if you're able to help the INFJ have and maintain a relaxing, calm, and organized environment, that's going to help the INFJ deal with stress and overwhelm. INFJs, however, don't always need things to be organized and predictable. In fact, INFJs need...
All right, let's go over this sensory thing first. He says INFJs may respond badly over time to negative stimuli like irritating noises and or bad lighting, uncomfortable chairs, but may not notice it. And so one way you can help them feel better is to help manage that incoming sensory data.
I mean, I think that is something nice for people to do, for sure. That would make an INFJ feel happy. It's funny because I think about the lighting in my old room, and it was just so like harsh, and like I wouldn't, if he didn't mention that that could be a source of like sensitivity.
Well, I mean, it's something he picked up from someplace rather than something he realized himself. Because an INFJ, well, that's true, I think.
Yeah.
INFJs themselves aren't it's not going to occur to them to say that or notice it in particular. And when it does happen, they're probably going to blame it on SE, not SI.
Probably.
Like, God, I hate how this is making me do all these things to stop this stuff. Is how they'll consciously phrase it, even though what they really hate is the stuff that's making all these noises or whatever, right? But anyway, um, so yeah, I think he's right there, but I don't think that it. Not only, I actually think it may be a good way to make your INFJ feel happy, but the INFJ might not notice
it. I don't think I would notice it.
You know, it's like
I mean,
I may adjust the thermostat, but I don't think Rachel probably really notices what it's like. Well, for me,
so
it's like
true. I don't.
You know,
I'll let it be. I'll wear more clothes.
It's ridiculous. The day that Rachel actually uses the thing to change the temperature, my jaw will hit the floor. But for me, on the other hand, I come in and I'm like, okay, it's too cold. So now I'm going to play my game, which is messing with this in a succession of going from too cold to too hot and back again. Anyway, let's see what else Thor has to say. Because that seems like okay, but...
a dose of extroverted intuition and chaos in their life. So, INFJs often need new ideas and new impressions to make sure they don't get stuck. If INFJs don't get new ideas or new opinions or new theories to look at, INFJs become bored. And besides that, because their mind tends to be very focused, it can run into a wall. So if you're able to help the INFJ by providing them with fuel, as in new observations, new patterns, and new possibilities for the INFJ to study and think about, you will help the INFJ have a healthy dose of challenge. However, it's important to manage this challenge. INFJs that are overwhelmed by too many ideas and too many possibilities will become anxious and rattled. They'll find it hard to sleep, and they'll find themselves feeling stressed out, and they'll find themselves wanting to escape and to avoid a situation. So, when an
Thoughts?
Makes me think of the Seven of Cups card in tarot, where like this person is in front of 7 cups and is presented with like different possibilities, and they have to make a choice. I think under pressure, an INFJ does get overwhelmed with too many possibilities, because then they have to make a choice, and it's not really in their wheelhouse to like make. It's just when there's so many possibilities, you want it to be the right choice, and assessing I think it can be difficult.
I mean, here's one thing I would say about this is, obviously, intuitives, if they're going to feel engaged in the world, are going to feel engaged on a mapping or abstract level, which means a lot of, ways of understanding, okay? But I think he's made a mistake here in that he's conflating NE and SE. So, it's not really possible for the INFJ to get overwhelmed by too much NE.
No.
They may get full of it after a while and want to, I don't know, SE or something else. But what they get overwhelmed with is the reality is when the possibilities presented require them to make actual decisions to do things.
That's what makes me overwhelmed. And
as long as everything stays in
any
conditional land where it belongs, and we're not about doing things, then we can discuss possibilities endlessly, and it doesn't overwhelm her or me. I also am overwhelmed by too many possibilities when it really means too many requirements to concretize ideas into choices, which neither of us particularly like.
No.
So in that regard, he should. You're still welcome to come, talk to me, Thor, and say, okay, Eric, fine, you're right about all this stuff, and I want to be right too, and I do want to bring everybody around a single one idea or path. And it is the case, there's only one single way to do this right. And that if you want to bring the smart people around who aren't going to shit on you for stupid reasons as much, at least more of a percentage of the ones who are smart and don't do that, and fewer percentage of the ones who don't really do that, then be right, And the thing is, this is fine what you're doing, but like that's a mistake, right? The chaos is really an SE thing. You might call my life chaotic, but that would not really be true.
No. And I do think that an INFJ needs NE, but will only really find good NE in an ENTP. And will finally realize the importance of words through being with an ENTP. But I wouldn't say that it causes chaos.
I'm glad you said that too, because it was something I meant to cover and I totally forgot about it, which is the reason this is somewhat disingenuous as well is it's not like anybody but an ENTP can provide NE without chaos in a way that makes them not bored but also not overwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no way.
So to pretend as though this can be like general advice, I mean, if you're an ESTJ and you try to follow Eric Thor's advice and give ESTJ NE to the INFJ, that's not going to make them happy because it's not good enough. It's not intuitive enough. Okay. Let's continue. Let's continue with the little adventures on Eric Thor's journey boat.
INFJ is put in front of new opportunities and new possibilities, they respond in excitement. But if there's too many possibilities, they'll respond with anxiety. So recognize the sweet spot here of how much the INFJ is okay with and how much they're able to handle at the time. You'll find as well that INFJs that are more developed can handle more ideas and can take in more possibilities. The reason why INFJs can sometimes struggle with extroverted intuition is because it can be contradictory. INFJs struggle with ideas and sensations and observations that don't match with their theory or with their worldview. INFJs need to have a solid grasp of the world and how it works in their own head. And if the outer observations don't match up with this, then the INFJ becomes unsettled, and the INFJ feels a need to escape to make sense of the chaos.
That sounds like an INFJ reacting to SE. That definitely sounds like an INFJ reacting to SE, not NE.
Yeah. So what he says here is INFJs struggle with situations where the concrete is inconsistent with their theory. And I've actually not really found that to be the case. I've found it to be the case that they struggle when they need to turn to their particulars rather than to theory. So
I'm not good with the particulars.
I don't think that's really correct. The thing is, INFJs don't have theories that are inconsistent with their observations. Because it's NI that's making this, what he's calling theories, are really like varying degrees of generality of world model. So, or it's a lot about different ways of knowing. So there are a lot of different ways of NI knowing that remove the knowledge component from the individual's experience. And INFJs are attracted to those, and they do great when the things in life they're able to deal with are subject to those kind of things. But like if we're talking about Rachel's neuropathy symptoms, until she took mushrooms, I had not really ever heard her be very definitive about anything about her symptoms. It was really hard for her to access that data. But the mushrooms made such a dramatic improvement that she said, "Oh my God, these things are like fixed me almost, and I now believe I am going to get better from this." So, but normally, I'd ask her, "Well, are they better than yesterday or before?" And she wouldn't really be able to answer and say, "Okay, well, like, when you put on your shoes, was it easier today than yesterday? And then she'd answer it with a question, with an answer like this. Well, on Sunday, I think I put on some shoes that had laces. You're not getting what I'm trying to get at here, Chris, which is I want SI style information about your experiential progression moment to moment. And you are only operating on this thing via NI benchmark kind of stuff, right? So in that regard, it's really not true that they struggle when the concrete is inconsistent with their theory. It's instead true that their theories always consistent with their observations, and they struggle when the thing they need to address isn't subject to theories, universal theories derived from observations. So, lost in their own head need to feel connected and useful. I do think INFJs need to feel connected and useful. I do think,
Yes.
I don't know, do you feel like you get lost in your head?
When I was single, sure. When an INFJ is on their own, I think they definitely get lost in their own head for sure. I have been, but I don't.
I mean, this brings up another critique I have of this thing, which is um, anybody who's isolated is going to feel lost in their head because we're not meant to be, even no matter how SI you are, people aren't meant to live alone. People are social creatures to some extent, and isolation is going to cause problems no matter what.
Yeah.
Now, it might be the case that INFJ may be more likely to fall victim to that particular kind of thing.
Totally.
But I think that's situationally specific.
Yeah.
And not unique to INFJs.
No, I don't think it's unique to INFJs either.
I mean, same thing with this, right? It's true for everybody that if there's nothing but monotony, they'll get bored. And if there's too many possibilities, they'll get overwhelmed.
Yeah,
so is this really
generalities.
telling us anything particularly uniquely INFJ? In that instance, not really. It's kind of true for everybody. It's just he's saying maybe that INFJs want more extroverted intuition than the average person, or else they feel bored faster or something. But the thing is, INFJs can get all the extroverted intuition they want, and they do consistently by consuming media.
Yes, and that's how they get their NE. Yes, that's absolutely where they get their NE.
I'll just push him to go somewhere. Or you have something else to say?
Just it keeps us from being bored too.
Another important thing is that INFJ doesn't run in circles around the same idea forever. INFJs can often keep things on a theoretical base. That means they'll stay in a level of abstraction. Many INFJs are prone to getting lost in their own head, thinking about things forever and ever and ever. And while INFJs enjoy introverted intuition on its own, without anything else, will eventually become unsatisfying. INFJs need to feel like they are doing something more for the world than for just themselves. And if an INFJ is left to their own base and to their own thoughts for too long, the INFJ will feel as if they are disconnected from society and from the world around them. So the INFJ needs to feel that they're able to use their ideas and theories to help make the world a better place. So
I mean, I guess that's not true for everybody per se. Like, I would note that in music, some people don't feel the need to make their stuff public, and some people do. So, do you think that this need to have what you know be useful to other people? What do you have to say about that?
I think it's most useful to INFJs. Other INFJs. I mean, I wouldn't. Like, I have no problem telling stories about my experiences with different, things that have happened in my life. But, Uh, I'm struggling with this one.
Well, I think what he's saying is basically you have some, like INTJs, you have some holistic sense of how the world ought to be, and that the world's, everybody's kind of doing everything wrong, right? But
Yes.
you're not quite as mad about it as INTJs, or if you are, you're so much better at hiding it that it's never quite obvious to anybody. But see, I think you really aren't as mad as INTJs because
No.
the INFJ's what you might call your personal epistemologies, particular epistemologies, SI and FI are both instrumental. One of them's countervalued and one of them's ultra unconscious. So I suspect that means you aren't as mad. Whereas with INTJs, FI's third slot scorecard, so they're very mad about it. But the point is, INFJs presumably have this idea that on some level they get how the world is, and most other people seem to be not getting certain things.
Yeah.
So,
I
do you
agree
feel
with
as
that.
though that notion that you probably have is something that you want to convey and express as a means to connect people and be useful?
Not really. Uh, it's strange, but I feel like expressing those things to most people would either bore them or they would just think, oh, you're living in an idealized like fantasy. You can't like live life like uh, like the way that you say. So that's why I feel like it's like I can speak to other INFJs and intuitive mapping types about that sort of stuff. But I think it falls on deaf ears for most other people.
I, what I would say in general is Thor here seems to be putting he seems to be mixing up what they're good at with what they want to display. And the thing is, FE, you might think, well, okay, FE tool, they're going to want to get utility out of what they know. But that's not that's not how FE works, right? So, as FE tool, it makes more sense for an INFJ to know what they know and ask the other person about it.
Yes.
Find out what the other person
Yes.
knows. And if the other person knows what you already know, then to just allow the other person to think they've taught you something.
Yep, that's exactly it. I would rather the other person be the one who's speaking.
And it's because you know how people are.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay, well, this one. Okay. Who doesn't need to feel understood? Right? Doesn't everybody need to feel understood on
Yes.
some level?
Yes, they do.
So that's another one of those ones like, you know, you can get either bored by total monotony or overwhelmed by too much shit. That's that's true for everybody. Yeah. If you got a lot of bad lighting, bad sounds, SI hammering on you, it's gonna make you unhappy. That's true for everybody. Now
Yes.
the part that they won't notice it, that's true for
Yes.
INFJs until they do. In which case, they're gonna probably misidentify it as SE stuff. Whereas ENFJs, they won't notice it until they do. At which point, they'll still be confused about it. Like like that guy on the show who was literally starving, and I wonder if my starvation has something to do with me feeling dizzy. So, but the point is, some of these things are specific to INFJs, some of them are not. And the point that is specific to INFJs here is not something anybody's can really do without paying a lot of, without hovering like a mom, kind of, you know? I guess you could do some things. If the opportunity presents itself, you can, like I would for sure. I'll, if, I actually can't think of any examples. I was going to say, if I saw an opportunity to make her more comfortable, I would definitely do it. But she's got her ways, you know? I don't want to interfere with them. Like, she likes to lie down on the side of the bed and play squirrel.
Yeah.
And it's partially because I'm making some noises and rolling around. And it's partially because she's worried about her making noises and bothering
Mm-hmm.
me. And sometimes, and also there's this reality that's not very consistent. Sometimes I'm a very restless sleeper, and sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm very easy to sleep with. Sometimes I probably do wake her up. But once she's actually zonked out, she's usually out for the rest of the night because she's on Klonopin. But so mostly it's the FE thing. It's like if she's down on the floor, she's finally liberated into an SI space where she doesn't have to be burdened by this extra party. And she really wants that. You want to have complete control over your eighth slot. You know, like, um, so as it is, being in a couple, she also understands the FE thing. Like if I go in to go to bed in there, and she's in there in bed, let's say, watching a movie or something, I'm gonna be like, okay, well, can you turn off the sound of that because I can't sleep with that sound on. So what she does is just goes down to the floor, and she's been sleeping on the floor for ages now.
Yeah, and I was sleeping in the floor before too. Like I was sleeping in the bed, and then like I couldn't get comfortable for whatever reason, so I like went to the floor. Like it's weird SI, but like whatever, it works. I mean, I fall asleep, so that's the only thing that matters to me is like, I actually fall asleep. And it is such an FI thing, man. Like, because I know that I can be restless, that I turn and toss and turn sometimes before I get my comfy spot. And to think that we're keeping you up at all
She
is.
meant
Oh,
FE. She said FI, but she meant
oh,
FE.
I'm sorry. I meant,
Yeah.
yes, I meant FE. Um, but I'm so FE about that.
Right, and then the other problem is if I'm keeping you up, not only are you not going to tell me to be quiet, but if you do go to the floor, you'll probably spend a good deal of energy reassuring me that it wasn't because.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know how that links to whatever. Let's see what else Thor has to say here.
So, because of this, it's very important that the INFJ is able to translate their ideas to the outer world. INFJs need to make sure that their theories are properly understood and put in a real context. So, the INFJ needs to have the space to explain their ideas to the outer world. And so they need friends and family members that have an interest in them and in their thoughts and in their mind, and people that can help them understand themselves. It's very important for an INFJ to feel understood and related to, and so if you're able to give that to an INFJ, that's very positive. Another
I don't think INFJs like to explain. Do you?
I don't. I don't. I have my NI Piao, right? Someone asked me a question. I have my NI Piao, which is usually something summed up very, very neatly packaged.
You have your answer.
Yes, and I don't want to have to explain further because I might not know. I don't have the particulars. I don't have the details. So, if someone asks me, "Oh, how's life? What's new with you?" And I'm just like, good, the cats are good, me and Eric are good. And then they want to know more. I'm like at a loss for words because I just know that we're doing good. I don't remember what it is that.
Well, you're not sure what they're looking for, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, what they're looking for are SI anecdotes.
Yes.
But you can't
I
really
can't
pull those.
remember.
I mean, the thing is, you have access to the data, and you can tell a couple of like things that about things, right?
Yeah.
But you're not going to ever tell what they're looking for, which is an SI kind of a story. Like,
So,
well,
we
Auntie,
just went to the.
Eric and I just went to the meow, and we ran to meow, and we were like, oh my gosh, meow.
Yes, it's a struggle for me to remember what we did this morning. Like, so.
Mushrooms.
Mushrooms. Right. Well, this morning I remember.
See what else he has to say.
A very important thing to give an INFJ in order to make them feel better about themselves is authenticity. INFJs feel relieved when people are honest, when people are real. For an INFJ, the most important thing is that you are yourself and that you are the best version of yourself possible. So for the INFJ, it's important that you are comfortable around them, that you can open up to them, that you can talk to them. For an INFJ, if they feel that you have your walls up, or if they feel that you don't trust them, that's a big hit to their confidence, because for an INFJ, one of the most important things is being a good friend, being somebody people can talk to, and being somebody that can provide support and guidance. INFJs enjoy taking the role of a supportive figure or a figure of guidance. Now, besides this, it's important to remember that INFJs will not always be able to handle everything on top of their shoulders. INFJs tend to take on too much responsibility. Being introverted and judging types, they have a strong sense of responsibility and feel a need to be important and to be dependable for other people.
Thoughts from, let's start with the authenticity.
I do think that INFJs value authenticity for sure.
Me too. I think that it's correct that they feel safe and when they encounter authentic people, because they're going to always be right when they're reading someone's authentic displays.
Yes.
But they always run the risk of being fooled by a good actor if the person's not fundamentally honest.
So Machiavellian types can really take advantage of INFJs because, the person who is Machiavellian is only looking out for their self-interest, but seeming to be authentic while really taking advantage of the INFJ.
And let's talk about the lie detector thing. You know how INFJs are known to be good lie detectors?
Yeah.
They are excellent lie detectors if you are not a liar. So it's like, if they're sitting down and playing poker, they're going to read the various body languages and probably be able to tell who's bluffing or whatever. Rachel would be able to tell in a half a second. She'd be able to tell before I even started saying it that I was about to tell a lie, I'm sure. Because, like, I don't have any skills for lying. I don't have any abilities with that, because I didn't ever build up those abilities because I was busy taking this exclusive approach of ultra transparency, right? So I never really I'm terrible at lying. And oddly, at the same time, I'm good at acting. And the difference between lying and acting, I'm not saying I'm a good actor or whatever. I'm just saying I will fool you sometimes when I'm joking, being serious. Like, sometimes I like to do jokes that have a very dry beginning, as though I'm talking about something very banal and serious, but then you realize at the end that I'm, explaining why we shouldn't eat buttholes or something. So it's possible to, an INFJ is susceptible to good ideas, which is to say, you should be susceptible to good ideas. If somebody executes a good idea well that's designed to surprise the audience, then the audience should be susceptible to surprise. If it's actually a good idea, it should be that way for smart intuitives as well. So it's not like they can always guess everything or figure everything out. And the thing about lying versus acting is if I'm lying, I have this F thing going on, FI thing. Whereas if I'm acting, it's just FE. If I'm lying, I've got my own feelings are all embroiled because I know I'm lying. Whereas if I'm acting, it's not about me at all. And the thing is, that you can't claim to be acting when your purpose is to deceive other people. Okay? That's called lying. And if you do it really well, that's called being a good liar.
Not a good thing to be.
So, do you think you take on too much stuff? I do agree with don't put things on them.
Yeah,
INFJs do not like having tasks delegated to them.
Because we put so much stuff on ourselves.
So you do you think you take on too much stuff?
I used to. No.
I think INFJs in general do if they can, which is to say, it's not every INFJ is positioned to take on the kind of things that they both want to carry, can carry, and are the right person to carry.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I am the type of person who likes to have a good time. I prioritize that. So sometimes when I take on too much stuff, that takes time from my fun time. And then I resent the things that I'm doing because it's not really what I want.
That's all he says. So that's the end of it. Okay. So I'm not going to push any more of it because he doesn't say anything else or would have written it down. And I mean, he doesn't make any other points. You know, I'm sure he says some words, but he doesn't make any other points.
No.
All right. So let's go back and look at that thing real quick. Recap it. It's not awful. It's not terribly wrong.
No, it's not terribly wrong. There are some little nuggets that if you don't have an INFJ in your life, or you don't know much about INFJs, there are definitely nuggets of wisdom in here that you can take with you.
If you're in a relationship with an INFJ, let's say he didn't put the word "feel" in the title, and the title were how to make an INFJ happy, or how to make your INFJ partner happy. If you're in a relationship with an INFJ and you are needing an answer to that question, your relationship is already over. Now, granted, he was smart. He didn't title it that way.
No.
But it nevertheless is the case that you can see clearly how badly ERIK THOR needs to listen to me. Because this is haphazard, right? It's very haphazard. Some of these things are universal things that are haphazardly applied to INFJs via a weak link. Some of them are actual things, like the most real thing he says here is that INFJs are relieved and like and want and demand authenticity from others.
Yes.
He didn't also mention that they provide little of that themselves.
Yeah, we don't
fine.
let...
I demand a lot of TE from the world and provide none. So that's just how it goes. Like, I get mad when anything's not TE'd well. So in other words, if something's not TE'd well, it means I have to do some TE. If it had been TE well, I wouldn't have to do any TE. So it's like that McDonald's thing, right? Where I got to order they TE'd it wrong, so that they can't just put 4 McDoubles, click a button, all of them no pickles. So they forced me to TE how to order it. I got to order backwards from the way I naturally would, because I know that the people who are not SI can't remember 4 McDoubles with no pickles, 2 large Cokes, and 1 large fries. By the time they get done with the 4 McDoubles with no pickles, since they have to enter each of them in separately, then they have to ask me again what else I want. Now, if they're SI, it's not a problem. But I can't gamble on that. So
Yeah.
I've learned to say 2 large Cokes, 1 large fries. and then last tell them 4 McDoubles, no pickles. But that's an example of McDonald's is shitty to eat, making me to eat. Right? So I don't like that. I'm the same way. What you're saying there about FI, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's
yeah.
equivalent. There's nothing wrong with you requiring and wanting authenticity. That's a very positive thing because it means there's a reward for somebody like me who's kind of relentlessly transparent. I may fuck up or whatever, but you know at all times I'm not trying to fake you out.
Nope.
I'm not trying to put on any airs or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's I like the fact that it said relieved because most of the time most people can't make that claim. Most of the time most people are at least a little bit of neuroticism that's driving their positioning of their affect or making them trying to FE sculpt. Whereas I may try to FE sculpt stuff, but it's more like, oh wait, remember to be nice. It's not like I'm faking being whatever. Right? It's not like faking being nice. It's, oh shit, I forgot to be nice. Let me quickly scramble and say these things. That's authentic too. It's just that's not like faking. That's just not having very good FE.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it, right?
Yeah, I think
There's
that's
been
it.
a super long video on this. 46 minutes.
Wow.
You're welcome, Eric Thor.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You got 40, going on 47 minutes of useful feedback from me and Rachel.
Yeah.
And you're still invited to come just to concede that you need to have me explain shit to you and join Team Correctness if you want. And I'm not suggesting this to anybody else, not because they're not welcome to, but because I want you to be right and not be wrong. You're an INFJ, you deserve to be right.
Yeah.